Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the latest edition of Views on the News.
Was the Pope appealing for peace, or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carry-on drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys? On the panel tonight, we have Tersia from South Africa. Welcome, Tersia. How the devil are you?
I have risen. I got up this morning.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We can see it's a fact. Yeah, well done. You left your cave. Did you roll the stone back?
No stones, and also
okay.
no holes in the hands. I didn't do the crucifixion thing this Easter. I gave it a pass.
Okay, never mind. You've passed the test. You're here. And we have Guy from Manchester. Hello, Guy. How the devil are you? Have you risen?
No, I'm still half asleep.
Okay. And over in British Columbia, we have DP Higgs, but he's camera free. So he may have risen.
Oh,
we can't tell.
I was touched by the noodly appendage, so I'm good.
Oh, good.
How can we be sure that it's just not an apparition that we see? You know? How do we know it's really true?
Well, we obviously need faith, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Well, at least it's not an avatar.
And
yes.
I do have faith in my favorite pirate.
So last week we reported on the Monceau concert terrorist attack, which at that time, I think 137 people were dead and 145 were injured. But since then, it was rumored at the time that the Islamic State group had been responsible. People claimed responsibility for atrocities. And so we talked about this last week. But since then, the IS (K) have provided a video using the head cameras of the 5 men who did the atrocity. And also since then, the Russians have brutally arrested them. They were kicking the death out of them. And so they've appeared in a court looking severely damaged. And then subsequent to that, we have had Muslims who celebrated the Moscow attack by playing loud music from their cars. They were arrested, again, brutally. I don't know whether I can show you let me see if I can present this video. No, I don't think I can. It's too complicated. Oh, wait a minute. What's this? Let's try. Here we go. Let's try this. It's a bit jerky. And there's no sound on this, but you can see the police dragging them out of their cars. These are Muslims that were celebrating the attack. And they're giving them the boots going in. And so this is the way the Moscow police operate. Dragging them across the ground. And so my advice would be, if you go to Moscow, be a good person. So what do you think of that? Because it's been developments, hasn't there? And some rough justice too.
Yes, I mean, do we know that the people they've arrested are in fact the perpetrators? You know, I mean, they claim they are, but we haven't heard their defense yet. They may not be the right ones, you know.
Well, does that matter if you're Putin and you want somebody to? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's the first thing that I would like to say. The other point is that I think it is offensive and provocative for people to celebrate a massacre.
Yeah.
And so I have every sympathy, and I would like to see, the British police arrest people in those situations, not to beat the shit out of them, but to arrest them in a civilized manner, bring them to justice, because I think it's a public order act of some sort. Having said that, I appreciate, we need to protect freedom of speech, but I think if you celebrate a massacre, then what you're
Yes.
actually doing is inciting
Yes.
and assisting at the performance of that act,
Encouraging. Yes.
encouraging them. Yeah,
And,
so
and not only,
that-
I was going to say, not only that, you're also giving a bad name to other more moderate Muslims. You're painting. It's almost an attempt to paint everyone with the same brush.
yeah,
It has that unfortunate side effect.
Yeah.
Something I want to add to the conversation, and this links to our conversation last night with Melanie. Come on, John, help me with this name.
Presek King.
Yes, freedom of speech is vitally important, but celebrating a massacre in the first place, that's callous, that's not speech. I would even say that if the terrorists who perpetrated this horrific act, if they made a declaration saying this is why we did it, these are our motivations, that would be speech. It would to make a reasoned argument, even if it's a really, really bad argument that I disagree with extremely vehemently, but celebrating a massacre.
This is all that's left.
It's not speech.
Sorry, that wasn't meant to start then. My apologies.
No, that's fine. So I think we should emphasize the fact that speech involves, in my opinion, either writing or using words to make an argument of sorts, even if it's illogical. But I mean, just random celebration of a massacre.
Yeah. The music is a clue, isn't it? It's let's have a good time because we kill people. We don't. That's not laudable, I'm afraid. Not in my book.
Yeah, freedom of speech is about the expression of ideas, not whatever they're doing.
No. So I'm sorry about the little clip. It was on auto start. I don't like auto start, but sometimes I can't control it because it's in the source, Anyway, this one is about a London house which was burned, and the police say it may have been an anti-Semitic hate crime because it's in a Jewish precinct of London. Take a look. I'll show you now.
London, after what police say might have been an anti-Semitic hate crime. They think the fire in the middle of a big Jewish community was deliberate, and officers say a man who was arrested made comments to them that means they're now looking at the motive behind it. The smell of burning still fills the air here while forensic teams investigate. 4 people were taken to hospital with injuries. This is all.
What grieves me is we never used to have this, What they've brought their dispute to our capital city. Guy, what do you think?
Well, it does sound like speculation at this moment. I don't think there's any evidence that it was a hate crime. Obviously, I think we need to wait until we get some clearer evidence as to whether it was or not.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, we're feeling very touchy at the moment because of Palestine and Gaza and heightened tensions all around, and it's not unnatural to think that they might be.
We're overly suspicious, a bit paranoid.
Well,
however, John, I need to correct you that never. My dad has the saying, "Never is a very long time," and never is not an accurate saying in terms of the relationship between the Londoners and Jews, because in the 13th and 14th century there were regular pogroms, and I think. It was in the year 1400. I'm not sure. I don't know when.
Thing is, I know I'm old, Tersia. Tersia, I know I'm old, but I don't remember then. I don't-
Well, but what the interesting thing about that is that history repeats itself,
Mm,
and I think we need to not forget that these things will happen again and again and again until and unless we get people to think about their
Yeah.
beliefs and why they act upon their beliefs and how they enact their beliefs.
but
So
I
that's-
remember.
I just want to.
Yeah, point taken. But I remember in my lifetime, not 13 and 1400, but in my lifetime, you could go to that part of London, East London, and you could have a great Jewish meal in, I think it was called Bloom's, the restaurant. And it was on, was it Mile End Road? But the world's different now, and I don't like it so much.
Well, there is there's a Jewish restaurant. Well, there's a few, but there's one that I've been in several times in North Manchester. But sadly, it was bombed
Yeah.
literally about 6 years ago.
Mm.
The JS restaurant. So these things, I'm afraid, do happen.
Yeah. Not like the old days, is it?
What, the 1300s, you mean?
There you go.
Yeah.
So let's go to France now, because there's been an issue in a school where a teenage girl was asked by her head teacher to remove her Islamic head covering, because that's what the law says in France. You mustn't wear your Islamic headscarf in school, because they're very insistent that schools remain secular. Okay, it's admirable, isn't it? And there were, I think, three girls who were wearing headscarves. Two of them complied. This particular one refused, and the girl has entered into a heated exchange with the head teacher. This is developed, and the head teacher subsequently received death threats on social media. And in France, they take this sort of thing very seriously, because a couple of years ago, a teacher called Samuel Paty was decapitated on the street in a Paris suburb. And another one called Dominique Benard was killed at his school in Arras. So they're very sensitive, with justification. It's not paranoia here. And so what's happened since? The head has resigned because he wants to protect his own safety and that of the establishment, the school where he's been teaching. His resignation letter to his colleagues is quite poignant. It says, "I have finally taken the decision to quit my functions out of concern for my own safety and that of the establishment. I leave after 7 years, rich and intense, spent at your side, and after 45 years in public education. Thank you for your support." So the final icing on this cake is the Prime Minister has stepped in, taking the girl to court, because the girl has claimed that the head teacher attacked her. I'm not sure, that may not be the word. What does it say here? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, they've arrested 2 people who they think are responsible for the social media death threats. But the girl has accused the head teacher of, I'm not quite sure what, but the
Harassment? So would harassment be the?
I don't know what the accusation is, but the Prime Minister says the state will always stand with these officials. Those are on the front line, faced with these breaches of secularism, these attempts of Islamist entryism into our education establishments. So that the state is taking this girl to court for accusing falsely, because they found no evidence that the teacher did anything untoward.
Right.
But she's made accusations, and now she's being prosecuted for false accusations.
Excellent.
Sure.
Yeah, no, and that happens, unfortunately, all too often. Just to share with you, I was recently in my workplace accused of sexual harassment, and immediately I was put on suspension indefinitely until an investigation was undertaken, in which case, of course, I was absolutely cleared.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know the status of the person that brought this accusation against me. She's no longer with the company. So that's indicative of something. But for it to have happened in that way, and it's actually against their own policy, the company's policy, because I read the policy, they had me read it, that, you know, this is getting out of control. And happening far too often to too many people for these innocuous reasons, and you know, it's weaponizing, right?
That's right.
You know, so I absolutely sympathize. And you know, certainly appreciate that the government is taking that stand.
Backing. I've found the bit. She accused the head teacher of striking her. And the police have found no evidence of that. So these are opportunists. These are false accusers thinking that they're going to make some sort of benefit for themselves out of their untruths.
Yeah.
Guy, I'd like to hear what you have to say about this. As I'm listening to this, I'm just thinking of the complexities of human interactions. And I'm a teacher. John, you've been a teacher.
I was a teacher. I was a teacher. Well. Yeah, only for a short time. Until I
was a teacher in 1300.
But it's so what you're saying, Dread Pirate, is it Dread?
Yeah.
Higgs.
Yeah.
Higgs, the pirate. I'm just suddenly thinking, is Dread Pirate right? But the human interactions have become increasingly complex in that the power play, and you've got this thing about wokeness, and yes, we do want to not have people's rights trampled on, but then you get the situation where some people misuse their position, be that as a student or as a teacher, to be malicious and to get back at somebody. It's such, I can just imagine the situation. I see it in front of my eyes where this teacher makes a very reasonable and 100% accurate, please, I mean, I've asked kids, because I have a rule in my own little school, that you take your hoodie off when you come into class. And I've had kids who say, I'm not taking my hoodie off. And then it becomes about the hijab or the hoodie or the whatever, but that's not what it's about. It's about power. And that's such a complex dynamic. And the moment the larger zeitgeist plays into how these situations play out in the microcosm of one-on-one individual human interactions. And that's why we need to work on addressing the zeitgeist. Because if there's a zeitgeist of cooperation, mutual respect, but also respect for the laws and for freedom of expression within the limits and the parameters of wherever you are, then it will be so much easier to navigate these already complex interpersonal situations. So
quite a lot of these laws are new and they haven't really got embedded in society yet. What do you say to that, Guy?
Well, I think that apart from the malicious element, and you know, we don't know, we have to wait for clarity on that. But the the thing that worries me is that a lot of organizations are dominated by woke thinking, and they believe in the concept of Islamophobia. They are unclear really what anti-Semitism should mean. They think it means something more than what most people think. Things like gender critical issues. All of these things are kind of in the forefront of these people, and they're so dominated by these kind of ideas that they come up with, being offended when they shouldn't be.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Is this the moment, Guy, to bring in your news? Because I read your article. A very good article on your
Oh yeah, no, that's
platform.
I wasn't gonna. No, that's not that news. I mean,
All right.
no. The news that I wanted to mention was that we've had in the Northern Atheist Group 6 new ex-Muslim Saudi Arabian asylum seekers. Well, actually, 2 of them I was aware of before, but 4 new ones, and they all turned up to our non-fasting in Ramadan solidarity meal yesterday. It's kind of given us a bit of a boost to have these people. And they are saying that there's a large number of young people in Saudi Arabia who are basically atheists who reject what
I'm sure.
similar to Iran in that respect.
Absolutely.
So it's very encouraging to hear this. Well, we've heard about it for some time, haven't we?
Yes. Yes.
But, that was the news that I was going to give. The news about my being expelled by the Green Party. That's kind of old news now. But that's related to Islamophobia and wokery.
Yes.
It's. My feeling is that the best way to counter that is in a place like this, rather than to try and spend my time and my health, trying to battle with people.
Yes. You will get a free thought, free speech platform here. You will not be cancelled. Yes. I saw your picture of your meal, and it looked like everybody was having a good time. Quite a lot of people too. Yeah, well done.
Yeah,
good.
Well, we're having 4 during Ramadan, and the next one is on Thursday. But that one was in the centre of town, in the Corn Exchange. And the other interesting thing about that was that the Corn Exchange is halfway between where the IRA bomb struck in 1996 and where the Manchester Arena bomb struck in 2016 or 17, whatever it was. And the difference between those 2 bombs is quite an interesting one. The IRA issued a warning.
Yes.
The police were able to clear the area.
Yes.
The ISIS character did not issue a warning, and so 22 people, mostly children, were killed.
Yeah.
Interesting little detail there.
Yeah. So, on the subject of, I suppose it's one of the phobias. I'm not sure whether it's Islamo or anti-Semitico, but I'm going to show you another video. And I want to talk about this a bit myself because it reminds me of, so why is that not presenting? Oh, I got it. Yeah, right. So here we go. Oh, it's on its side. So I'm sorry that was on its side. I didn't expect it to come up that way. But that was in Goldsmiths College, University of London.
What
It was
were they singing?
well, they were singing "From the River to the Sea"
Oh.
and "Free Palestina, Free Palestina," and it was the students in the lunch hall doing that. There was one of them was there with what the Americans call a bullhorn. You know, we'd call it a loudhailer or something, and he was leading this singing. But what I want to say is, back when I did my first degree, we went to folk clubs. They were the thing in those days. And we joined in lustily singing the ballad of, what's his name? Barry, the
Humphreys.
no, that wouldn't be appropriate. The ballad of Barry, I'll think of it in a minute, but he was a martyr. Back in the 1920s, he had been killed by the British in the Irish, in Derry, I think, in the what we call Londonderry, but they call Derry. So, and we were lustily joining in with singing this, and it was fun, we were all singing together, a little bit drunk, and probably clapping along. And it was only about 3 years later that the Troubles started. And we realized that we had been singing an IRA song.
Right.
So the point I want to make is, did those students who, at that age, like to gather together and sing and clap because they like a bit of music, were they really expressing a political opinion?
Yeah, that's hard to know.
I think they're
sort of asking them directly if they know what the river to the sea means. Even if they know what river and what sea, because certainly there's been, conversations with people who, hold that idea that don't even know what river and what sea they're talking about.
I mean, I think there is a problem that the Palestinians will be free from the river to the sea is ambiguous.
Yes.
And it's ambiguous because if you take it based on the Hamas charter, it means Jews should be exterminated or thrown out.
Yeah.
But if you take it on its face value, it's arguing that Palestinians should be free from Israeli occupation and should live with full, human rights and freedom. Which I think I certainly agree with. It's unfortunate that we have things that are ambiguous, and I think they shouldn't be sung for that reason.
Yeah,
I agree.
So it's Kevin Barry, the Ballad of Kevin Barry, written by Leonard Cohen, I think, and it was about this poor young man who gave his life in the cause of the Irish Republicans.
Well, I mean, I think the reunification of Ireland is looking very much on the cards now. I think we might see it in the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
I would be happy with that because I think the 1921 split was a mistake.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of loyalists, nationalists. No, not nationalists. The other sort. The
unionists.
That's it, unionists. In fact, they're a branch of the Tory party, aren't they? The Conservative and Unionist Party. Yeah, they would object as quite vehemently, I'm sure.
Yeah, they would. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. I've got a little bit of good news here because you remember a week or so ago, Nigerian pupils in the northwestern town of Kuriga were captured. 280 children were taken away by these motorcycle bandits who tote AK-47s, and it's a hobby of theirs. They take hostages all the time and ask for a payment. Well, many of them have been released. In fact, 137 of these hostages were freed days before a ransom deadline. Now, there's a discrepancy in the numbers there because The school authorities said 280 had been taken, but the army said 137 had been freed. So there's something going on, but it's partial good news.
Yeah, I mean,
Almost half of it.
sorry, go on. You know, Dredd. I was thinking that you should call yourself the bosun Higgs, because on your ship you'll need a bosun. So
Yes.
bosun Higgs sounds about right.
Yes, I
indeed.
love that.
Sorry, I've
That's
interrupted.
why I chose Higgs, right? Because of the Higgs boson. So,
All right.
yes.
Well, I just want to say about this situation in Africa. Africa is it's a very complex, even more so than the rest of the world, I think, in many respects.
Yeah.
Last week I did a show with Esther, our friend Esther, the Afro-humanist, about the that death cult or the suicide cult in Uganda, where so far they found more than 420
Yes.
people. And the one thing that stood out about she showed clips of a documentary about that story. And whenever I hear about these kidnappings that are so ISIS is also making great strides in Mozambique, which is well, just up the coast from where a couple thousand kilometers, 2,000 kilometers. That's not that close, but the post-colonial situation in Africa, combined with the religion, makes it so complex. And I was just talk about France, and that links to that story about the hijab and the laws against Islam in France. So France, as a former colonial power, had still has many economic benefits from their relationship with some of the dictators in some of those former colonies. And the one thing that people from Europe and let's call it the first world, what the first world doesn't seem to realize is that when it comes to Africa, the massive discrepancy between in income and standard of living, that is the most powerful fuel to this fire of religion. And most of the Muslims flooding to France, and I mean they are people that live in the former colonies that have now been taken over by dictators. And in the case of Islam, you already have a very a religion more prone to violence than any other, and I'm willing to debate anybody about that, but I think the evidence is quite overwhelming, and I'm not being Islamophobic. We should perhaps talk about that on one of our Free Thought Hour shows.
Maybe we should, yes, because in northern Nigeria, they've got several people in jail for blasphemy. And that's an area where Sharia law is enforced, despite the fact that the Constitution specifies it's a secular country. There you go.
I mean, even in South Africa, when you go to the bank, certain banks have a plaque that says, rest assured, if you're a Muslim, this bank enforces Sharia law. So you can actually take out Sharia law policies, and you can get married within Sharia. But what I wanted to say is that this thing about the kidnappings and the Islam in Africa is a very complex issue, and I think it can be relatively easily addressed by just addressing the unfair practices of the past that are still being continued in more subversive ways. So yeah, I think the conversation needs to be very nuanced, and the relationship between politics and religion in Africa, and it's increasingly south of the Sahara. It used to be only around the Sahel and the northern parts, but Islam is making massive strides into the south. I mean, this year we have elections in May, and we have an Islam Islamist political party. They are taking part in our elections, and it's not cheap to register a political party in South Africa. So where did they get the money? It's something that needs to be watched very, very closely.
There's a lot of religious tribalism getting into a lot of governments right now.
Yep.
But I'm going to show you something, Tersia, that will really enrage you. Take a look at this.
Oh.
You know, it's interesting that that in the UK they don't put up big crosses. We get something like the Angel of the North, or we get large, sort of mostly secular sculptures until in Birmingham, is it Smithick? They've put up a woman, or they want to put up a woman in a hijab.
Oh my goodness!
And near where I used to live, there was a Catholic school with a life-size crucified Christ covered in blood on a crucifix outside the school where children go to school, and I think that's obscene. It's also visible from the street. I think that image is an image of torture. It's an image of savagery.
Yeah.
I can't see why it should be displayed.
No. So there's the statue you referred to, the strength of the hijab. I think the woman who modeled for it won't be flattered.
No doubt.
John, I just want to, could you just go back to that cross?
That one, yeah. It's massive, apparently.
I want to see, okay, well, I don't know if it's good or bad that they said the cross statue was unveiled, not erected downtown.
Well,
you know,
I can give you more about that. That isn't South Africa, you'll be pleased. that is in Mississippi, a town called Aberdeen. Well, they'll call it a city, won't they? And that cross is 120 foot tall.
Jeez.
And it cost $240,000. And a couple donated an acre of land for it. And the construction company said it's the 14th that they've erected, and that's in Mississippi, and the 20th the company has installed overall. And they say, the couple that donated the land said, this is not for Aberdeen, this is not for Monroe County, this is for everybody who travels this highway back and forth. They're going to see this cross and talk about it and say, I went through Aberdeen, Mississippi, and there's a great big cross.
I'd just say it's a big, ugly erection.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to say the reason John said this would like me is because I'm also the CEO of Kruisvrij. Pirate Higgs, would you please say Kruisvrij?
Kruisvrij.
Oh, beautiful. Kruisvrij.
Kruisvrij.
I love that. Let's fry and cross it.
Free of a cross. Kruisvrij. I wonder whether it'll be struck by lightning. Any of these will be struck by lightning. That would be good.
Do they have lightning conductors? I wonder about that. But
well, maybe they could be used to, put life into Frankenstein's. They could have Jesus clones or something like that, and he's re-risen, resurrected.
Well,
back to being risen, eh?
If it were in South Africa, then I would have written my
would
first.
Be your business, wouldn't it? Yes.
Yes, I would have taken them on, and I can. What I found in my very fledgling campaign so far. So there are two crosses that I'm not attacking because I'm not quite that quixotic to attack crosses, but it's about the principle of the matter. And in each case so far, I've realized that there's mostly some financial thing going on between the municipality and whoever erected the cross. It's very interesting because also in this case as well, there's a company and they're making lots of money.
Yep.
I find that very interesting and not related to a
misspent money.
Yeah.
Well, it's misspent. Depends. You see, if I could make some money erecting crosses, I suppose.
How do you know principles?
I do. That's why I'm not making money erecting crosses
okay.
or printing Bibles. Is that a
Yeah,
nice segue?
Oh, we're coming on to Bibles later on. I promise you Bibles.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Anyway, moving back to the UK, here's another little piece of good news, because Baroness Deach, who is one of the bishops she's a member of the House of Lords. She's not a bishop, but in the House of Lords we do have 26 bishops of the Church of England, and Baroness Deach thinks that's too many.
How many do you want?
Well, I'll tell you.
I want 0 bishops.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Absolutely.
One is too many.
Yeah. So apparently, unlike most other members of the House of Lords, bishops do not need to undergo a propriety test when entering the Lords. They don't have to show they're suitable. And that's because 26 seats are automatically reserved by the Church of England. And so they get special privileges over other lords in the House of Lords. And believe it or not, the only other sovereign state to have reserved seats in their legislature for members of the state religion is
Iran.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's shameful. It's shameful the company we keep.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's being raised. So maybe something will happen. Maybe there's going to be a debate, maybe, because nobody has given a good reason why this system is carried on. And like Guy, the vast majority of the British public support the total removal of bishops from the House of Lords.
Yeah. Right.
But as we've seen, history's claws and the very long shadow of the past reaches way into the future, and it's going to take a little bit more than 500 years to get rid of the legacies of the past.
Personally, I think it's already taken too long. So I want to go to the US of A now, because as you know, there was a terrible collapse of a bridge in Baltimore Harbor, the Francis Scott Key Bridge. But there's no wind is an ill wind, because there's a couple of Christian ministries, who are hanging around trying to make profit out of this. One of them is led by the Reverend Joshua Messick, and he says he will be advocating for the rights of the crew members, including that they have adequate provisions and that their shore leave is not restricted. He says, "My primary focus will be on caring for those seafarers who cannot continue their journeys, just making sure that everything they need they are able to get, and their extended stay here is as pleasant as possible." So, and there's another one who is a Catholic. He's a chap called Andy Middleton, Catholic ecumenical minister, and he's directing the other ministry, which is the Archdiocese of Baltimore's Apostleship of the Sea. What was the first one called? He was the executive director of the Baltimore International Seafarers Center. Anyway, this Catholic one says, I've been communicating via WhatsApp with a couple of the crew members who are still on the ship, and I've been reaching out to them periodically just to check in and make sure everybody's doing okay, and reminding them that we're here for them and that we're praying for them, and making sure that they know when they eventually get clear of the incident and come back to a berth that we'll still be here waiting for them and wanting to help them. I'm sorry. It makes me want to vomit. But what do you...
No doubt. Well, certainly I bet there was a bunch of crew members at the time praying that they weren't going to hit the bridge. And that, unfortunately, didn't seem to help.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's almost certainly was the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, guys, you'll be pleased to hear that Donald Trump has come out with a Bible. It's been promoted on his social media platform, Truth Social, and it's called Donald Trump, God Bless the US of A. You want to buy a copy?
$60 apparently.
I prefer the other Bible that I heard about today. So I follow American politics religiously, no pun intended. And I heard today that in 2017 there's a better version of the Bible. I'd get one of those. So in 2017, somebody published an actual Bible where every single time in the Bible the words God or Lord or Father appears, it was replaced with Donald Trump. It's actually a real thing. I think that would be an amazing. That one I would buy. But
is it less than $60? And where does the money go?
I'll post a link to it. But so I didn't know about that one.
Does the money go to the Democrats for that one?
I believe he had to use the King James version, which is well known to be very inaccurate, because all the modern translations are still covered by copyright or something.
Oh, yeah. It probably would be. Yeah.
But the other interesting thing that I learned today, and I credit Matt Delahanty for this, the Atheist Debates Project. It's actually not the first time. There's a Founders Bible, and there's a Patriots Bible. I don't know if you're aware of those. They are quite popular publications. They're way cheaper than the God Bless America Bible. So anybody watching, if you really, really, really need a Bible that mixes American patriotism with religious fundamentalism, rather you can get the Founders Bible, which is apparently the pages don't stick together, because I've heard that there's been lots of complaints about the Trump Bible that the pages stick together and it's not very good quality. So the Founders
Well, I don't think you're meant to read it, are you?
There's also a Slaves Bible, which was edited to include all the bits about being subservient to your master, but none of the bits where you've got freedom to express.
Yeah.
On that note, guys, we've overrun the target time, but thank you very much. You've been wonderful as usual. Say goodbye.
Lovely to see you. Bye then.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for coming.
See you in 2 weeks.
Good. Yeah.
Was the Pope appealing for peace, or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carried and drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys?